Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a wonderful few days since I've last seen you. Considering I'm on a 20k green arrow and considering that I captained Cole Palmer over Mohamed Salah, I'm actually quite delighted with the game week for reasons I shall express later. Now, it feels slightly premature to wish you a happy new year, considering it is the 30th that I'm recording this on, and for pretty much all of you watching, you'll have everything you need to know on the same day. So I shall wait to do that until everything you need to know. Today, I have you some match analysis from 3 specific games, player insights, specific player insights, a game review, and of course, transfer plans. One move which I'm potentially making tonight within about the next hour, and much, much, much more. If you are new around here, if you are one of the regular viewers, we are so close now to 6,000 subscribers. If we could hit that somehow by the end of the year, I would be very grateful and be a magnificent thing to achieve. But without anything else needing to be said, apart from the fact that if you like the video, make sure to drop a like on it. Let's get into it. We will start with a game week analysis and then go on to Robert Sanchez. I expressed in the introduction that I was delighted with my game week, even though I'm on a 20k red arrow and Captain Cole Palmer over Mohamed Salah. So why is that? Well, one, considering Trent hit me for 15 and Salah hit me for 16 yesterday, it feels a lot better considering the rank is nowhere near as bad as it was yesterday. But today, I have got to Lewis Hall, and not only that, it was a difficult decision, I thought, to start him over Robinson, and it turns out being an 8-point swing. I was considering moving Jared Bowen to Sarr. Okay, fine, Sarr gets 1 more point, but I wouldn't like Sarr for the following game week. You will see who I am looking to transfer Jared Bowen out for. So again, that works in my favor. Okay, fine. I lose 14 points on the Cole Palmer swing. No problem. It happened. That's FPL. Congratulations to all of you who went there. But I also play Rodgers over João Pedro for a +2 as well. So, on what I deem to be the more difficult decisions for my team in the week just gone, I'm down 7 points, but up a transfer. And honestly, really not that bad. So yeah, it appears to be much worse than it actually is, considering the size of the Cole Palmer swing. But when you take into account all the tough decisions and the fact that I got my points later on, which always feels better, I'm okay with it. And like I've said so many times, what appears to be bad is not always so. And when these type of things happen, when these big swings happen between just one-on-one players in captaincy, so be it. That is FPO, and you just gotta ride the wave. Moving on to Sanchez, I really, really, really disagree with the decision to bench him. He's had 3 brilliant games in a row. And it's not the fact that Jorgensen gave away the penalty. I don't think he had a particularly bad game from the little I've seen of the Chelsea game. It's the fact that you're taking out an informed keeper. And I know he was on 4 yellow cards. You could easily just told him to not waste time as much as he usually does, kick the ball and shut his mouth, and he would have been absolutely fine. I think just disrupting the flow, the momentum, especially when someone is in good form, doesn't really make sense. Again, I disagree with the Jackson benching, but we'll come on to that later. It is what it is, though. I don't think he'll be getting benched anytime soon now in the league, and I'm not going to be selling him when he's going to be starting away to Palace. So yeah, obviously my betrayal of self-supremacy, which I actually started, has not gone so well. I don't know exactly how many points down on it, maybe like 12, 13. Not the end of the world, considering the span of game weeks as well. Would have been preferable to have those points, but so be it. You have to go for upside sometimes, and not often, but sometimes this is going to happen, and that's okay. I still feel relatively comfortable with my side, and there's not much more that needs to be said there, to be honest. I guess this is more of a whole team thing, but therefore it could certainly be applied to Robert Sanchez and the goalkeeping position. I really am trying to consciously maximize the efficiency of my transfers each and every week, and my defense embodies that philosophy better than any other department within my squad, because this defensive unit looks so solid, and if for another week, again, in a row, they return for me. Guardiola gets 6 points in probably my luckiest clean sheet of the season. I was laughing at halftime as to how I've got away with it so far, because realistically, Leicester, they definitely should have put 1 away. They had some big chances, and the highlights probably, I haven't seen them because I watched the whole game, but the highlights probably won't do it justice, just as to how lucky Manchester City got to keeping a clean sheet. So to walk away from there, the 6 points from Guardiola is absolutely magnificent, and we'll see what Gabriel does tomorrow night. Ideally, he concedes in terms of rank for myself, because obviously Arsenal's effective ownership of their defense is above 100%, but regardless, if he cleans, then good on you guys who have him. Lewis Hall, and this is what I mean, this was a tight decision here, and it's an 8-point swing. It's a big swing across defenders, especially when the fixtures were so close. You look at the probabilities for clean sheets, and Fulham were 1% higher than Newcastle, but he was really good. The ball for Isak was wonderful. Maybe could have had another attacking return, but pushing it slightly there. And to be honest, Man United had some chances to score and some good chances. The Casemiro one, the Rasmus Højlund one. few things in the second half. So again, I get a little bit lucky here to walk away with a 12-pointer. And again, it makes it easier to take this quote-unquote bad week when you've had quite a bit of luck. Like I got a lot of luck to get the Guardiola clean sheet. Got a lot of luck to get the Hall one. So I can't just focus on what appears to be bad and all the quote-unquote negative things. You have to count your blessings as well. So yeah, delighted with the defensive unit. And like I said, this 5 is pretty much going nowhere. And they should just keep playing week on week on week in a wonderful rotation. After I finished that section, I realized that maybe I'll sell Hoscar Guardiola, not so distant future, which will be interesting. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. I guess there is only one place to start, right? And that is Mohamed Salah and Cole Palmer. Firstly and foremost, congratulations to all of you who picked up his points, albeit it doesn't feel probably so good for you because the effective ownership was at 188, I think. But regardless, congratulations and well done. In terms of, let's discuss this whole captaincy, right? Because I think there are so many layers to it. I was thinking about this myself. One, Salah could have scored 30 points on, what was it, Sunday night? Yeah, I don't even know what day it is, but who really does in the festive period? But yeah, I think Salah could have genuinely scored 30 points, and I got very lucky that it was only a 16-pointer. Missed some big chances. Trent set him up a few times as well, which would have hurt my rank even more. And that was a real killer to the rank. I wasn't so bothered about the Salah 16-pointer. It was a Trent 15-pointer. I guess on top of that, but mainly that, because I had no counter to that. Obviously, before the games kicked off tonight, I was like, oh, if Palmer matches Salah, and so basically cancels out. But counter Trent, I didn't really have much. Obviously, Lewis Hall pops up with a 12-pointer, which does a wonderful job of offsetting the rank damage that Trent did. But yeah, in terms of that, I think I got lucky because Salah genuinely could have had 30 last night. The flip side is to say that Palmer, I think, actually got man of the match tonight in a 2-0 loss where everyone was raving about Liam Delap, and I saw something he did, and it was really good. And if that is the case, then that kind of just sums it up, right? Hits the post. Nkunku could have got him an assist from the rebound off that, but hits it straight at the keeper. Effectively hits the bar because his shot gets tipped onto the bar. Has a disallowed assist. I think Chelsea racks up 2 XG. All of those things, right, means that, okay, fine, Palmer could have got a lot higher. In terms of the decision, was it a decision which warranted a 14? No, not really, right? So there are so many layers to it where I got lucky and quote-unquote unlucky in other areas, and it's fine. Like, honestly, okay, fine, it appears to be big. It is a big swing in terms of points, but that's cool. That's just how the game goes, and I don't regret the decision. I knew what Salah could do, and to be honest, I can just as well count my blessings, the fact that it wasn't. Foden, another example of me getting lucky. Didn't really do anything throughout the game. I didn't think City's attacking dynamics were great. Gets shifted to the right-hand side, playing on the right wing, and yet still manages to pop up with a 6-pointer because there was a very poor bit of keeping, and Savinho smashes home or an assist for Phil Foden, which is cool. Rodgers, 11-pointer, great, right? It's been one of my players of the season. Him, Lewis Hall, Gabriel, Guardiola's been great for me since I've owned him, when I've owned him as well. Them 4, probably the best players I've owned. Absolutely magnificent. Robinson's been pretty good to me as well. And yeah, gets a goal and assist. Wonderfully well taken goal. This is just that Pedro kicks through him, right? So it is what it is. But at the value, he's been absolutely brilliant. And he's somewhat of a differential. When you're getting hauls from your cheap midfielder at 40% EO, feels wonderful. Bowen 1-pointer, he really didn't have a sniff. Kudus certainly did. Kudus could have walked away with a massive haul if it wasn't, or was maybe a centimeter bigger. But you'll see what I have to say about him. And Transfer Plans obviously went off in the 59th minute. I think for Bowen to go off, it would be quite a big deal, at least at the time, even if it's not severe and major going forward. So we'll discuss him there. But yeah, honestly, like, I'm pretty happy with the team and how it performed. Things happen, and that's all good. Congratulations to you who got the Salah point. João Pedro, 9-pointer on the bench. So I allowed myself to put on my Captain Hindsight hat and see if I had made a mistake in hindsight. And I still don't think I did, because the real debate for me was between him and Rodgers. Okay, so I'm up 2 points on that. I guess the thing that people would have said in hindsight is, could you not have played him over Bowen? I think considering Bowen's coming off a good run where he's got returns, I think considering West Ham were at home, considering I don't have Trent and I'm not captaining Salah, so it really maximizes my upside to go and bet on West Ham. And that's just the way I play generally. And that's my philosophy really aligns with that playstyle, hence why I use it. It makes sense to me. So I'm fine with having a João Pedro 9-pointer on the bench. Big deal. Isak scores again. Could have got another return, albeit United were definitely better as the game went on. Shut up shop a little bit in terms of what Newcastle could do. So that's that. But I think he's gone like something like 8-11, 8-17, 7. I think I'm missing a haul in there. There's just so many points. He's been absolutely brilliant. And yeah, just the easiest haul in the world. There's not really much to discuss, right? Him. Jackson, we will discuss in some depth in transfer plans because he needs to be discussed. One pointer, what am I going to do, right? Gets benched, and when he gets benched, I'm thinking, okay, what I would like to happen is we destroy Ipswich. Palmer bags a massive haul. He's on 4 yellows. Maresca can just say to him, you know what, I don't want to risk you. Stay on the bench. In the end, Palmer blanks, so I don't get the points from there. And he blocks the jab header, and I avoid that. Like I said, is what it is. And like I said, we will discuss him in depth in the transfer plans because there's a lot of little variables that we need to discuss regarding him. Overall, like I said, happy with how the team looks in general. Happy with the rank. Not the greatest game week in terms of rank, but definitely one which was saved. And now let's move on to the match analysis before transfer plans. The community that has been built thus far has been brilliant, and it has largely been facilitated by the brilliant people in there. So if you would like to enhance your FPL experience in a multitude of ways, none better than the fact that you're sharing the experience with such positive people who are all really engaged with the game and some who have been offering brilliant advice, then do consider joining. All of these perks are on screen, including the football analysis, potentially 1 hour Q&A calls, which was the last call we had. It was really, really interesting just to hear more about people and their backgrounds and how they approach FPL, and a lot of tactical talk as well. If you would like to get in on that, the link will be in the description. It will be the first thing there. And in advance, I very much look forward to you joining and welcome you. An interesting game, that is for sure. Not one I expected to play out in the manner it did, and I assume that it would be the case for many people who had an idea of how the game could potentially go. It really made me think of the first half where Manchester City went away to Brighton for a few reasons that we'll start off with. Leicester pressed them in a 4-2-4, very similar how Brighton did when Manchester City went to the Amex. In the first half, their press really lacked any sense of energy, and it was lethargic, and it wasn't intense enough for my liking. And I remember Fabian Herzog did a short interview at halftime, for whatever reason, I think. He spoke about that, and he brought in Belieber, and just in general, the intensity they're running increased numerous fold, and City really struggled against it, or at least struggled to a significant extent. One thing I noticed with City's 3-2 build versus the 4-2-4 press was one, which we've seen throughout many a time throughout the season. Pressing in a 4-2-4 against a 3-2 build is maybe optimal. Maybe there's a better solution. Most definitely is probably a better solution out there, one that maybe people haven't found, but it is a very good solution against. And I thought Leicester's press was good, albeit it lacked the same intensity that the Brighton one did, and I thought it could have been slightly better coached because it wasn't as well coordinated. I will give you an example. When the ball was at the central centre-back's feet, okay, fine, one would go and press with some level of intensity, but it wasn't a cohesive effort, and they could just shift the ball to the left centre-back, and then the next one would go. But the whole line wasn't stepping. They weren't looking to close the space. The other line wasn't really squeezing as well, especially with the options available in midfield. Our City could eventually get out. The only real pressing trigger I saw, unless Mavridis just runs a lot faster and was far more willing to have that more intense style of press, was when Akanji received facing quite inwards, and Mavridis would really go and press him there. But if that was to be done in a slightly more intense manner and a manner whereby it was a little bit more coordinated and better coached, I think they could have caused City some problems, because at times when Mavridis went to press him, there were a couple loose passes as well. And I think it could have forced City into some early mistakes, and it would have been really interesting to see what happened from there, because City were played through and hurt on transition. Leicester played through them quite easily, right? They went with a slower build-up and then played through them. Even when it was quick and vertical, it was still fine. What I would say is the City midfield really lacks legs at the moment. De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Rico Lewis, and Matej Kovacic as almost a box. For me, personally, I don't think it's enough legs to really cope with the standard of physicality the league is currently at, or just the ball-playing ability within the league. And I think they got very lucky. Like, it won't get talked about too much now because they win 2-0. There's a bit of relief there. Everyone's happy, right? Maybe this is the thing they needed. They got very lucky not to concede in that first half. Some good goalkeeping, but largely just some poor finishing and a lot of luck, right? Another day, they get hurt, and another day, they lose that game, okay? So I think they probably want to change that up. I still think Matthias Nunes should play in the middle. I know Pep clearly hates that idea, but that's just my opinion. Foden right wing was interesting. I think what it does is it really increases the floor of your attack, because you know with him, you're going to get a certain level of actions. You're going to have this security because his retention is good. He's not going to lose the ball. And one thing I've spoken about with Savinho in the past when he's played on the right-hand side is his understanding, with the 8 specifically, Foden on that right-hand side, has been really poor because one, he doesn't pass in the ball. Two, he holds on to it a little bit too much. Three, his timing of release is great, and it's just not his natural thing to be able to combine with the 8 and then go from there. Largely, rather he wants to take on a lot of 1v1s. But Foden doesn't really have any of those. A lot more, I'd say, mature in his performance. So having him at right wing, whilst I don't think it's his best position at all, I think you'd rather have him in the 10, especially in this City side where everything's optimized for him. I think for them could actually be a decent option, especially to limit the amount of transitions. Because when you have someone with better attention, when you have someone with more security in his actions like Foden, you're going to lose the ball less, right? It's also one reason why I really like having Grealish. Don't have legs in the midfield as much, just to have him to kind of take the sting out and reduce the transition. But he's injured at the moment, I think, so not much to be spoken about there. Again, there was a lack of fluidity within the City side to an extent, and I think against the more physical sides now, that's going to be a harder thing to do successfully when they play them. For example, Brentford, if they have their players back, I think it will be a hard thing to do for them there. But we shall see. I thought Leicester were pretty good, honestly. They could really do with Hermansen back, but going forward, Buonanotte, El Canus, Vardy's always a threat. I thought they were pretty good. So going forward, I can see them causing some other defenses some issues. That is for sure. In terms of Manchester City going forward, and specifically the defense, I guess. Well, they've got West Ham next week, and it's a West Ham side that just shipped 5, and there were a lot of things I really wasn't impressed with, especially from a coaching standpoint as opposed to a player standpoint. I kind of feel like they were left out and hung to dry a little bit, but we'll speak about that in the next slide. West Ham can definitely hurt City on transition. It's really, if they can get their attack clicking a little bit better, okay, fine. At least they can outscore teams in a way that Jurgen Klopp used to do when he first got here. But I still think there's quite a few things to fix there. And just because they won, I'm not all of a sudden so much more bullish on their prospects going forward. This was an absolute battering. And it was one of the most one-sided performances I've seen this season. I couldn't believe quite how one-sided it was. Now, fine, West Ham hit the post or the woodwork 3 times, but largely it was a bit of magic from Kudus, and then a very good ball put into Kudus on his head, which he hits onto the bar, and then a deflection in the 94th minute of the game. But aside from that, West Ham had so little, and Liverpool was so dominant and control the game so well. We're going to start with the second half, because this is where my issues with the selection and with what Lopetegui put out really arise from. Now, one thing on this channel that I try to do as much as possible is not criticize the players and the managers. One, because it's just not a very nice thing to do. They are people. There's no real reason for me to somewhat influence other people to think about them in a negative light. It's their jobs, so many variables. And also because they also know a lot more than me about football, every single one of the coaches. However, I'm here to give my opinion. So I will do that in the most respectful way possible. Having a pivot of Soler and Paquetá in this league against that midfield, for me, is a diabolical decision. Because they have, like, their running capacity compared to that Liverpool midfield is non-existent. And with this system, right, one thing you have is you have less numbers going forward. So all of the individual players have to do a little bit more, especially when you don't have top-tier wingbacks. And we're going to come on to this when we speak about United. One of the points of the wingbacks is, one, when you're pinning your opposition in their half, they spread the pitch for you, which is good because then you're better players on the ball and in the pockets. Your 2 10s, they can get on it a little bit more with a little bit more space, hopefully, and your pivot has a few more options in that sense. Also, just as an out, even when those central areas are really congested, you can go out to them and they can leverage the physicality and then really explode and use their running power and take you up the pitch. And then also, it provides you a different angle from wide areas if your 10 was to go there, because you normally have a left foot and a right foot on the same side. The right side, right-footed 10 on the left, and then left-footed wing-back on the left as well. And it just gives you the opportunity to cross from situations you wouldn't really be able to do. But with the wing-backs they use, they couldn't really do that. And then just in general, the running capacity in the middle, it's got overrun every time. On transition, they were so open. And then, like I mentioned, you have one less man going forward. So, okay, fine, if you want to play the ball, or you have to play the ball forward through passing as opposed to carrying, because you don't really have those type of players. But now you have one less man, right? And it's just so difficult. I really feel sorry for the players, because I kind of feel like they were left to dry in that second half. Jones was, again, very good, and I really like the performance. And to be honest, the midfield was top. Liverpool looks so ruthless in transition, just in general. Diaz, I think, similar to the game against, such an intelligent performance. When to go, when not to go, when to drag your man here, when to not. The way he pulled into those spaces, how good he was on the ball, the way he linked. Gakpo at the moment, the sharpness of every action looks great. Salah's just probably the best player in the world. You can probably running out of superlatives to use for him. What do you keep saying after every single game? Like, oh, good. Gakpo looks really, really good as well. This is what I think. I think this is unanimously now what Liverpool's best front three is. And yeah, we could go on, but like, you get the gist. The first half approach, I would say, was more open to interpretation, but I still didn't like it. I don't think Emerson did a great job of doubling up on Salah on that side, which I imagine was the idea. And especially when you have Wan-Bissaka there, was clearly trying to do a lockdown job, but he didn't really offer him enough support. And if he's not going to, I think you may as well just play Somerville or Kudus there and actually try and hurt Liverpool down that side. But they didn't, and yeah, I don't really agree with that approach as well. And just in general, I don't like the lack of compactness from West Ham. There's so much space on offer. They were punished for it. So yeah, largely just waxed lyrical about Liverpool and really disagreed with the approach from Lopetegui, but is what it is. And if he does something similar at the Etihad, I think this will be the perfect game for City from an attacking standpoint to really hurt them. Because what City have struggled against is these deeper blocks who have been really compacting without fluidity and without a few other things like Rodri for certain reasons. They haven't been able to break him down as well. And they've definitely had a finishing deficiency as well. So the chance creation hasn't been as bad as it seemed. But if West Ham play in this type of way, I think it'd be a perfect type of game to allow the specialists in Foden and De Bruyne to get on the ball in the space and feed Haaland as well and just really hurt them in general. This wasn't a battering. It was for the first 30 minutes until Kobbie Mainoo came on, and it was a big one. I mean, very similar to the last slide. Similar system. You have Casemiro and Eriksen in the middle without that running capacity against a Newcastle midfield that's strong, is quick, has a huge shooting capacity. You're going to struggle, right? And they really, really, really did. One thing I would say about this Man United system, and I specifically haven't talked about Ruben Amorim much so far because I haven't liked too much of what I've seen, and I especially don't think that this system, the way it interacts with the profiles he has and the way he wants to play, isn't going to work at the moment. I think they could go on a continued run of these poor results. I do not think the floor of this side when playing this system is particularly high at all, and I think it's very low because similar to how I spoke about last time with the wing back, you're getting so little utility out of them, both defensively and offensively. And the main issue for me is offensively. The other thing is all the players you have available to play in your pivot, Bruno aside, lack something big. So, for example, even when it's Mainoo Ugarte, I know they won at the Etihad. One thing I noticed with that is the passing that you got from the middle, the progressive passes, was really lacking. Okay, and on another day, if City weren't so bad, and they were so bad on that day, they punish you for that because realistically, they really struggled to hurt Manchester City in that way. And I think when they have to be the side to take it to the other team with that, especially in to take it to the other team in games which will be slightly more transitional nature, having that is they're gonna struggle as a pivot, and that's probably their best pivot as well, right? So imagine what it's like if it is today for sure and struggled. I also think that having one of your wing backs being an inverted wing back, given for example he's a right footer playing on the left, doesn't really help when just in general your 10s aren't functioning in a certain way. So for example, like today, Dallo on the left, then you've got Xerxes, right, in that 10 spot. And what happened to him with the early hook was really harsh, especially with how the crowd reacted. The utility you're getting out of that is so little because, okay, fine, maybe they'll be able to facilitate some small space combinations between them. Just in terms of getting up the pitch, it becomes so much more difficult because there's no one to go and then stretch and then create a pocket there. There's also no one to go and carry or to really penetrate any space in behind. So there are a lot of issues with it, in my personal opinion. I really enjoyed watching Newcastle as of late, and it's pretty difficult not to, right? One, I love the man-to-man high press, and I think they're able to do it better than most because of the athletes' physical profile side. I really, really enjoy watching this left-hand side dynamic. It's not the typical one, right? Normally, when you have a runner in Anthony Gordon, you want a passer at your left centre mid. You don't have that. You have Joel Linton. Played so well, and they've actually given a lot of the responsibility in some way to Lewis Hall, who's been superb on that left flank. Isak's obviously playing probably his best ever football. Jacob Murphy's been great. Bruno Guimaraes, for me, I don't know who won out of the match. For me, it was Bruno Guimaraes. He was unbelievable. He was so good. Just the side is functioning so well. They've obviously got Spurs at 12:30 start the next game week, and all things point to this being a very interesting game. And probably in Newcastle, and Spurs obviously got a lot of injuries, things aren't going well. Well, Newcastle are flying. They're a good stylistic matchup aside for Spurs, and that game should be really fast paced in Newcastle. Probably hurt them. There are a lot of other things to speak about with Man United, for example, Bruno, some other players and stuff, but we can leave it for now. I'm not too bullish on them, and I certainly am on Newcastle. Before filming, I had a good hard think about the direction I would like to take my team in and what potential moves would be best for myself. Nicholas Jackson will be a huge talking point at the moment through this week, and I will discuss him on everything you need to know in depth. For me and my team currently, I do not think he's a sell. I would very much like to get back to two. Well, I have 2 free transfers, and I would very much like to stay. Okay, so that's the first point, but it's not the biggest point. The biggest point is all of the replacements I don't like. Not a single one of them appeals to me. The one who appeals to me most would either be, well, I guess 2. One, Mateta, but he significantly downsized my upside this week because I have Robert Sanchez in goal and I have Cole Palmer as well, right? So I'm putting a Palace against 2 of my Chelsea, one being a guy who I'm looking to get a clean sheet from, and then the Palmer-Jackson combination. So if that hits, I'm taking away from that. Just, right, pretty obvious. And also Ollie Watkins, but I haven't a real route to him because I can't afford him, even with the other move I'm looking to make. So I think I just hold him. He's almost definitely going to start, especially after we lost. And again, as we've said many times, Nkunku is in a 9. I think he made a mistake dropping Jackson and Sanchez this week, but so be it. It is done. So I think he starts. He probably gets like 80-ish minimum, even if it's going badly. I think minimum considering Nkunku's just played. And it's not the worst matchup in the world. Like a striker there hasn't been too bad from things I've seen. You know what? Given 1 week, if him and Palmer can hit, great. If not, so be it. I can move on. And I can get Mateta the week after for Leicester away. Preferable, I guess. And yeah, he's looking to, I think he's about to fall in price pretty soon. I'll just take the hit. Now, the midfield is interesting. I know Foden went off not solely because it was a tactical substitute, but picked up a knock in the first half. So I'll have to see how he is. But I can't imagine him throwing James McAtee in from the start. He could just play Doku and Savinho together. Could shift Bernardo to right wing and then play Gundo in left 8. But I think if Foden's fit enough, he starts. So I'll wait there. The thing is, if I were to sell, if let's say Foden was out, if Foden and Bowen are both out, then I'll sell both. But if Bowen is to be fit and Foden is to be out, then I would keep Bowen, right? One of the reasons I'm selling him, which we're coming on to, is because I would really like Anthony Gordon. He's my priority transfer this week. I think it's just better for me to maximize my upside by keeping both City and sell Bowen, even if there's a hint of injury, because I don't really need to take that risk in my spot, right? But yeah, if Foden's not fit, creates a bit of a problem. I might just play 4-4-2 and just play Lewis Hall away at Spurs, and so be it. If that is the case, but overall, I'm looking to keep Foden. I think decent likelihood he starts, and sell Jared Bowen for Phil Foden, not for Phil Foden, for Anthony Gordon. Why? Well, I feel very safe owning Anthony Gordon. I said the run is good until 23, but I had a look at it, and I actually think it extends beyond that. I don't think City bad, especially for Gordon. Even the few fixtures after that aren't tough. From a stylistic standpoint, at least, especially if Newcastle were to continue this form. Gordon seems like he's playing very good football again. I wouldn't say the ceiling is as high as seasons gone by. I don't think he has as much attacking responsibility in this side as he's done in the past. For example, when it's been him and Isak together, I think Isak's got a bit more of that now. Jacob Murphy's taken some of that. Bruno G playing in the 8 alongside Joel Linton. Joel got him back-to-back games. I think they've taken some. So is Lewis Hall. So I don't think it's not as much rest on his shoulder, which isn't good from an FPL standpoint, but I think the floor is high given the quality of performances individually and as a team. The fixtures are good, and there really aren't many better options. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be going Bowen to Gordon tonight. And if Foden is out, then I'll probably just play 4-4-2, albeit I would have preferred to get Bowen in that case. But I can't. I don't know how Foden is. I'm just going to assume he's fine and start. Yeah, I probably will be doing Bowen to Gordon tonight. And even though I think Bowen's a good asset, and I think West Ham can certainly hurt City on transition, I think Fulham at home after, and then Palace at home after that isn't even bad for him. And he could actually turn out to be a pretty good hold. I probably will be making this move. just because I see a lot of immediate upside associated with Gordon, and there's a lot less risk to holding him, especially given the way that West Ham are playing. That is everything she wrote for this video, ladies and gentlemen. If you did enjoy, do drop a like on the video. If you have not subscribed, consider doing so as we approach 6,000 subscribers, and it would be wonderful to hit that before the end of the year. I hope you had a green arrow. I hope you had a magnificent game. If you did, congratulations. And if not, there are many, many, many other weeks to go, and it can all turn so quickly.